Sajid Al Islam sir, and other two coordinators of this training session on communicative skills. And I also thank our director, who's been very kind to me when I was there, Dr. Faisa Basi madam, our friend Mazar, and all the other participants. Good morning, everyone. And
Good
I
morning.
deem it as a great opportunity.
Assalamualaikum, sir.
Yeah, good morning. Thank you. I deem it as a great opportunity. Just a second. Yeah, to be with you this morning and to share with you some of my understandings and some of my reflections on disability and communication, broadly disability and language. And before we get into that, I think it's very, very important to acknowledge the kind of space given, if not me or anything anyone else who will be who could have been invited to conduct a session on disability and communication. Especially, I think it's a very great initiative by Professor Sajid Islam sir, because we see a lot of workshops, lot of faculty development programs, lot of training sessions for school teachers throughout India, but we hardly see anyone addressing or any session having or featuring a dedicated session on disability and communication. It's a very, very important thing. Disability and pedagogy, or anything for that matter, right? Anything to do with the disability. But we see disabled students with disabilities increasingly in the last 10, 15 years. And the kind of students that we encounter in our class, especially in the school classroom, it's quite complicated. I very strongly, in a way, say this. It's very, very complicated. If you look at the classroom, that if you compare the classroom, if anyone is having, let's say, 20 years of teaching, and just try to compare the kind of disabled students that you got 10 years before, and try to see the kind of a disabled student that you get today. And as I was saying, I was in Europe and in India also, same situation. 10 years before, the kind of students that we get with the disabilities were primarily, having blindness, physical impairment, deafness, some sort of mental illness. But today, we have large number of students with the intellectual disabilities, autism. I really don't know whether in the last 10 years there was a huge attention. There has been a huge attention on students with intellectual disabilities. But I really don't know whether it is because of that or we started having more children with autism or intellectual disabilities. So many special schools are in Europe also. I was told that the special schools that were earlier dedicated only for blind students, only for deaf students, started enrolling students with intellectual disabilities. They started having sensory classrooms to address and to provide learning atmosphere for students with intellectual disabilities. A very, very complicated sort of disability, because it's really difficult to diagnose the intellectual disability. More often than not, the other day I was talking to Professor Sajidul Islam sir. He was saying it begins from home. It's very true. More often than not, parents try to label such children as underperforming children, as those who are nearly are not really fit to be studying, or nearly are not really fit for education. They are very naughty. They are very irresponsible. They're not sincere. These are certain labels that are being imposed upon them. But on the reality, like on the other hand, if you look at the reality, those children have either ADHD, attention hyperactive disorder, or they might be having autism, or they might be having dyslexia, and there are countless other intellectual disabilities. So I think these days, in the urban schools, in the urban setup, parents, because of their awareness, education, exposure, started accepting their children with intellectual disabilities. But in the semi-urban rural areas, I'm very sorry to say, it still remains to be a very, very sorry state of affair. Many majority of children are not really diagnosed. As a result, they are really labeled as underperformers. Sometimes they are even beaten up by their parents. They are not given much importance. If they have two children, they only prefer the other one who doesn't have any sort of an issue, right? So all sorts of things. We'll try and address certain issues in terms of communication, but I feel it's very important. I really thank Professor Sajidul Islam sir for really thinking about a session on disability and communication. For me, because I work on disability studies almost since 2017, I've been teaching courses on disability studies almost for 7 years. I know the kind of situation in India. Also, I see often in terms of comparison with global northern countries, particularly developed countries. Indian situation is very sad. You know, we have schemes, but what is the use of schemes when we really don't understand how to diagnose disability? When we really don't understand how to, like how to accept, such disabilities. So I guess let's try and I think that's a very important thing. It's a very I must thank him really for thinking about this session. Because we hardly get workshops or training sessions having session on disability and communication. It's a most important thing. Especially it needs to be imparted to school teachers like you, because we work in college level and university level. We get students. We do get students with that sort of problems, but more often than not they go for discontinuation. It is because they were not given proper training in the school. They didn't have any sort of, let's say, background. Right? So I'll give you some of the examples, and I'll, in the course of my lecture, and we'll try and make it as interesting as possible. At the end of the session, I'm sure you'll be having something to take home, and you will be able to have something, to implement it in your lifestyle, in your life, on your classroom, in your peer group, in your friend circle, and so on and so forth. So I planned for this session, in terms of three levels. First, let's try and understand what is disability, because disability is something that we always take it for granted. But that is not the meaning of disability we talk about in disability studies. We'll try and unpack the meaning of disability. Then we'll try and let's say that locate disability in the larger socio-political cultural context in India, and certain words that are actually in a way used to refer to disability. Thirdly, we'll talk about the kind of using disability as a metaphor. We often use disability as a very I would say substitute, a derogative substitute to talk about the positive thing, right? And when we talk about that thing, we'll also in a way try to see what is the way forward, how we can improve our in a way uh, language towards disability, you know so I think these are the things that I would be talking about, because it's really very specifically centered on communication. Let's try and confine to that, and to the end of the session, I'm sure you'll be able to have some understanding of how to communicate with students with disabilities, and also how to refer to disability, right? So if you look at disability as a sort of a condition, right, it's a bodily condition. It's like a diversity. We always say in disability studies, disability is just like religion, caste, class, gender, sexuality, language, region, so on and so forth. So we have a lot of these are in sociology, they say these are social categories, right? These are critical categories. So these, let's say, gender has been very excessively studied, theorized, talked about, discussed, debated. So much has been written about gender. Same is the case with religion. Same is the case with the class, and same is needless to say about caste. or language. Similarly, the knowledge about disability has been discussed since 1990. And before that, I'm not denying that, as Virginia Woolf says in Room of One's Own, in 1929's work, there were libraries of books about women, but sadly, none of them actually were authored by women. Similarly, before 1980, there are countless literary works, films, plays, mythological works portraying people with the disabilities, portraying the character of disability, in the works. Also historical documents. But sadly, none of them actually was authored with disability consciousness. So we say always that the knowledge about disability began from almost 1990 onwards, with the first ever book titled The Politics of Disablement, authored by Mike Oliver. He was a sociology professor at the Open University of UK. Right? So I don't want to go into it, that would be a digression, but I just want to stay there for a while to unpack, to sort of you know the uncover the meaning of disability as it is seen in disability studies. So disability historically has been understood in so many ways, uh, from ancient period onwards, also in the medieval period, early modern period, contemporary period. Each period has witnessed altogether different meaning of disability. In the ancient period, in Greek, in the West, disability was seen as a monstrous body, something which is very, very anomaly, something which is very strange, something which really was not to be seen in the society. In the medieval period, disability was more or less seen like some sort of what you call a punishment for sin. So it's a punishment given by God for committing some sin in the past. Right? In the modern period, disability was connected with some sort of abnormality, right? So some sort of abnormal condition. In the contemporary period, disability is seen as a different ability. So please look at the kind of meaning. But I want to tell you, none of these definitions actually, in a way, uh, means the actual meaning of disability. They either understated the meaning of disability or they overstated the meaning of disability. In other words, they try to sort of see disability as a subhuman condition, below human. What we in sociology and cultural studies also they call dehumanizing rule. So they were trying to locate disability as a dehumanizing subject. They're not treating disabled people as human, or in the terms like differently able, specially abled, these terms that are used in the contemporary time, they try to see disabled people as superhuman being. So they are not human, they are superhuman. They have some extraordinary power, but which is not true. Right? So you see very clearly either these terms ancient from ancient period to the contemporary period, they either try to see disability as a subhuman condition or dehuman condition, or they try to look at disability as a superhuman condition or extraordinary power, which is not actually real. If disabled people are superhuman beings, they will not be begging on the streets. They will not be relying on arms. They will not be staying in the disabled homes. They would be fending for themselves. They will be taking care of their lives. So I primarily say that these terms are linguistic sanitizers. As we use sanitizer to clean our hands and places. Similarly, these terms are linguistic sanitizers. So any euphemism towards disability, to me, they are linguistic sanitizers. They only sanitize the language, but they don't really improve the life condition of people with disabilities. Right? So then what is the actual meaning of disability? Why do we actually, in a way, like sort of say have problem with these terminologies? We have problem with these terminologies because they have not done really anything in terms of uplifting people with the disabilities. That's very, very important. We need to understand, because merely by using the language, we are only empowering the language. We are not empowering the life condition of people with the disabilities. Even today, only 0.56% of disabled people enroll for higher education. Right? And sadly, almost that 30 to 40% of disabled children, they drop out from school education because of certain problems. I'll talk about that. But just, let us stay here. And these terminologies have been, in a way, introduced with certain models. You can understand models as approaches. So all these social categories, be it is gender, caste, class, religion, all these social categories, including disability, historically have witnessed certain approaches in terms of understanding caste, in terms of understanding religion, in terms of understanding class. Similarly, disability as well. So disability, first, it was seen from a religious model, right? Then it was seen from charity model, medical model, especially from the 18th century onwards or 19th century onwards, we started having medical model. Then we started having individual model, especially with the arrival of industrial revolution. Then from 1980s onwards, we started having social model of disability. And also we have human rights model. Very briefly, I'll just touch upon this thing because that it itself requires a separate session altogether. But for the want of clarity, I'll just touch upon it so that you will be able to have a better understanding of what I would be talking after that. So religious model says disability is a divine punishment, like we say in Hindu religion as karma, or Christianity as sin, right? So it's a sort of a karma that that one disabled person sort of carries in his life because of some bad deeds the person did in the previous birth, if there was anything, right? And because of that, so his the helping the disabled person in a way would fetch moksham, for the other person who is actually helping. That's a Hindu religious understanding. And this religious model of disability led to the charity model of disability. Both in the West and in the East, there are a number of charitable organization homes were established. And even today, you find in India, Annadanam, that is like, food donation is seen more appealing than the blood donation, right? So people often say, when we see a disabled person walking on the street, the first thing that comes to our mind is, I'll just give him 10 rupees, I'll get food for him, I'll get something for him, right? So that's a charity model of understanding. In the sense, we just want to do something, whether the person wants it or not, right? And in terms of, like medical model of understanding, medicine after, let's say in the 19th century, when allopathy medicine began quite rapidly in the West, and toward the end of 19th century in the East, it tried to say that disability is a disease. It's like a fever. It's like some sort of a flu. It can be cured. So disability can be cured. So whatever the disabled conditions were not to be cured or were found to be uncurable, and those conditions were termed as a tragedy. So the disabled people were said to be having personal tragedy. So medicine did a very, very great damage in terms of making people have a false belief about disability. Even today, I'm a person with a blindness. Whenever I have encountered this question, probably, I don't know, like 1,000 times, 10,000 times, it's countless. Whenever people see me, the first question is, if someone donates eyes, will you be able to see? it's a very, 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 very what you call like it's a very bad understanding. It's a very, very flawed understanding rather. To see, I mean, to have a belief that someone can donate the eyes, the person will be able to see. There are so many conditions, with illness or problems with regard to eye blindness. And it's not true, not all, I mean, it's really, really not true that one can donate the eyes. One can only donate the cornea. And cornea donation is possible only in terms of 0.5 percentage of conditions. That too, someone lost a vision in terms of accident. Someone lost vision. That's only possible in terms of acquired blindness. It's only in the middle of the life. But people always ask this question because they're all influenced by medical model. So medicine strongly, falsely rather, spreads the news that disability can be cured. Someone doesn't have leg, that the leg can be fixed. Artificial leg or prosthetic leg can never match the actual leg. That's an attempt to normalize the person. But that attempt only should be seen in terms of making the person independent, not in terms of curing, the loss of leg. That's not possible. Right? So that's the damage done by the medical model. And the individual model after the industrial revolution, industrial revolution placed importance on ability, the condition of, like the able-bodied condition. Ability is very, very important. Competency is very, very important. Capability, capacity, strength. These are certain things that were in a way prioritized by industrial revolution to the end of 19th century and more so in the beginning of 20th century in the West. As a result, disability was seen to be an individual problem. Even now, you see, if you don't have, let's say that we all teachers, in our universities, schools, and colleges, we conduct classes on the second floor, first floor, third floor. The lift may not be working, or there may not be lift also. There may not be any ramp. But the person who is actually on the wheelchair, someone is, like physically impaired. How would the person come to the classroom on the second floor? We say that that is his individual problem. Why these people are coming to the university? Why these people are coming to the class? Right? Because we tend to confine disability as an individual problem. We fail to see that it's a structural, systematic failure in terms of accommodating person with disabilities. Right? We never ask, let's say, like there aren't any specific toilets for women, in the sense, not very clean sort of a toilet, not very, toilets are not really conducive, very congested. We know the situations of schools, government schools, but we never ask, why women children are, why female children are coming to the school. We never ask if there is anything, someone is very short, someone is who is left-handed. We never ask, because our benches are all designed for right-handed people. Right? We never ask why these people are coming to we make some arrangement. Right? The system tries to accommodate everyone except people with disabilities. Because it looks at disability as an individual problem. It says that because of the religious model, it says that other person did some, like bad dates, misdates in the previous birth. As a result, he was born with that sort of condition. Or we are often go by the medical condition, and these people, like someone donates eye, someone does it, this thing goes for operation, surgery, it will be cured, and the parents are very poor, that's why they are not going for it, right? Or we are going by charity model as a teacher, okay, I'll take care of your food, I'll take care of this, that. But what is important is making the student at home in the classroom environment, providing him the utmost facility. That's very important, right? And that because we are all part of the system. The system, if a disabled student feels uncomfortable, it is not because of his disability, it is because of the structural systematic failure. It's a failure of the system in terms of not accommodating that particular student with a disability. So that's a kind of a thing. So we need to have an inclusive atmosphere. When we talk about inclusive education, it's not merely including subject about disability in the curriculum. It's also about having an inclusive classroom. It's also about having an inclusive campus, inclusive building. The building should be inclusive so much so that no one is left behind. Right? So I think that's a very, very important sort of a thing. And finally, social model of disability. It was introduced in 1976 by Union of Physically Impaired Against Segregation, UPIAS, in UK. They said that disability is not an individual problem, and this is where I'm actually coming to the actual, the core of my understanding. I mean, my focus of unpacking disability, the meaning of disability. So UPIAS, as a very strong disabled organization, activist organization, said that disability is not an individual problem, it's a social problem. It's a social pathology. It's a social disease. Why it's a social disease? And that's where in social model, they differentiate between impairment and disability. It's a very, very important thing. Like feminists in the 1980s differentiated between gender and sex. Gender is sociological, cultural. Sex is biological. Someone having a female like sort of organ, that's a sexual thing. But based on which, if you assign certain gender roles, you are a woman, you should behave like this, you should talk like this, you should eat like this, you should in a way conduct yourself like this. And that is where gender roles come into play. These are culturally created, these are socially created. Similarly, someone has a blindness, someone has physical impairment, someone has autism, someone has deafness. That is an impairment. That is not disability. But the impairment turns out to be disability if the society is refusing to accommodate the person with the disability. If there are barriers imposed by the society, let's say the classrooms are not accessible. 10 years back, election polling booths were not accessible. For example, blind person had to tell his choice of voting to other person. But today they have made it very much accessible. They give you braille, like voter candidate list and everything. Even the braille, the EVMs are all quite accessible because the braille dots are braille numbers are all printed there. But 10 years back, it was, but the very idea of transparent, what you call privacy related voting, democratic system, the individual choice was defeated when it came to person with the blindness, because the person had to confide, had to sort of reveal his choice to the other person. And the person who was on a wheelchair was not able to enter into the polling booth because the polling booths did not have ramp. Even today, many polling booths have a very, very small ramp, just so to say that they have accessibility. Their wheelchair cannot really enter into it because you're all been part of the election system, very well. That's a different story altogether. But when it comes to this kind of a social model of disability, they say that impairment is biological. It is very true. We are not denying that, the person has certain impairment. It is true. But the barriers, inaccessible environment, attitudinal behaviors, which actually make impairment to be disability, because disability is socially oppressed condition. It's very important. Disability is socially oppressed, culturally excluded condition. And because of that only, in order to hide that only, we say that disabled people are differently abled. We say that disabled people are specially abled. See, for example, let's say in the UPSC exam, who is really specially abled? The person who got first mark, first rank is specially abled, or the person who got 600 rank because he is blind. I mean, he is a blind candidate, he got 600 rank, he is specially abled. Actually, to me, the person who got first rank is really great. He has certain wonderful ability with him, rather than the person who got 600 rank, because there are 599 people before him. He's not so great, because it is disability. Because the moment we start thinking that disability is a diversity, we stop being, in a way, what you call, we stop thinking about people with disabilities as superhuman abilities. They're just like human being. And that's where the human rights model comes in. So in human rights model of disability, the disabled people are seen as, say, like equal human being. They're seen on par with other human being, and they bring in the understanding of citizenship. They are also like fellow citizens. It is not that, like we don't have to we have to do some charity. It is just it is our responsibility to help fellow citizens. They are not something that they are like, like inferior to us. It's not something they are superior to us. They are equal to us. They are also like our brothers and sisters. So we and brothers and sisters, and also they are our citizens, equal, like, citizens, equal. I mean, they also share certain amount of equality, right? So the human rights model demands us to look at people with disabilities as equal citizens, human beings with equal rights, just like other people. It is just that they are doing things in a different level, right? If a sighted person is operating computer by using mouse, by looking at the screen, blind person is operating computer by listening to the computer, by listening to the speaker, by using keyboard with screen reading software. As simple as that. There is nothing great about it. There is nothing inferior about it. It is just that diversity, right? So disability is a diversity, and that's why I often wonder, we all in India, we often say unity in diversity. That diversity does not include disability. I think we should start including diversity as part of, disability as part of diversity. It's very, very important. Right. So now, if you try to look at the kind of what we call, these are certain major models that are actually, or rather approaches that are used to refer to people with the disabilities, used to understand people with the disabilities historically, from ancient period through the medieval, early modern, contemporary period. Right. So now, it's important to sort of what you call, uh, understand what disability studies talks about disability. Some of it I really touched upon it, during just a while ago when I was talking about social model of disability. Right. So disability study says disability is just a condition, a social condition, right? Just like other social categories like religion, caste, class, gender, so on and so forth. It also says that it should be seen as a sort of a, what you call, a cultural condition as well, because disability studies started in a way prioritizing, foregrounding, giving importance to the meaning of disability from lived experience of people with disabilities. So earlier there was an understanding that there was a preconceived, predetermined understanding. So disability studies shifted the meaning of disability from predetermination to self-determination. That is, people with disabilities, based on their lived experience, because these days in literature, sociology, but broadly in humanities and social science, because of the onset of memoirs boom, memoirs, life writing, we started in a way placing importance on lived experience. We drifted away from imagination. So now the shift actually in the literary studies today is from imagination to experience. Now the experience is very, very important. So disability studies gives importance to lived experience of people with disabilities. And as a result, what disabled people think about disability was really foregrounded in 1990s, right? So and that's where the terms that are actually sort of used to refer to, people with disabilities were challenged, critiqued, and outrightly rejected by scholars of disability studies, because the scholars of disability studies are mostly people with disabilities. They were, like in sociology, we talk about, they talk about something called autoethnography. That is, the scholars of disability studies were trying to, in a way, write about their own experience, and they were also simultaneously trying to theorize their experience. It is both a narrating experience and theorizing their experience, so that we call it as autoethnography, right? So in the in 1990s, so the terms, certain terms were emerging, but certain terms were actually in a way called into question, right? The terms that were emerging, you know, I want to really look at these. Just if at all, if you're noting down, you can note it down. Three categories of terms. One is the terms that are used to refer to disabled people. Second, the terms that are used to refer to disabled people in an euphemistic way. Third is the terms that are used to refer to people with able-bodied condition. That is we call normal people, but the word normal itself is so normalized, but it's very problematic term as well. We'll talk about these terms. So first category, the actual terms that were historically referred to people with disability, used to refer to people with disabilities. Second is euphemistic terms. Third is, like terms that are used to refer to people with able-bodied condition. So let's try to fill the first category. That is the actual terms historically that were used to refer to people with disabilities. Monstrous, deformed, defect, like defunct, demons, right? And abnormals, right? And anomalies, right? These are the terms, incapacitated, right? Incapable. So these are the terms that are historically used to refer to. Even today, many terms are, like being in your language or Hindi, Urdu, or any of the other languages. You have so many words that are very, very, very colloquial, very, very unparliamentary, right? Those words are refers to used to refer to people with disabilities. And till then, till now, they were freely circulated. No one was really questioning it. No one was really thinking about what in cultural studies they call it as materiality of such words, meaning what is the substance of that word, what does it imply, what does it carry, why and why the term, or rather in what context the term was really introduced. These things were not really sort of what you call questioned, because Indian, I'm very sorry to say, Indian regional languages are known for utmost derogatory use of words for people with disabilities. You don't find it in any other languages. As much as we celebrate Indian languages, we should also be mindful of these, inherent problems in the Indian languages, especially when it comes to marginalized section, particularly the vulnerable of the vulnerable, called the people with the disabilities. The most derogatory words for people with the disabilities you can only find in Indian languages. I am from Tamil Nadu. My mother tongue is Tamil. Tamil is also no exceptional to this. It's a very, very problematic sort of a thing. But I only told you the English terminologies because that is the English is our common language. Because I don't know about other terms in your language. Yeah, because you are the better person to reflect upon it, recall those words. Let us try and fill the second category of words. You have euphemistic words starting from differently abled, specially abled, gifted, special child, and the recent innovation is Divyangjan, divine bodied people, right? And I will come back to these terms in what way they are very problematic, you know. And the third category is to refer to able-bodied people, abled, capacitated, normal, perfect, brilliant, uh, capable, whatnot, fit, beautiful, handsome, all sorts of words. I'm very sorry to say none of these words actually in a way refer to people with disabilities. We don't even unknowingly also we don't use these words to refer to people with disabilities. Right? And probably the fourth category we can put it, the um, the terms suggested by disability studies. These are the politically correct terminologies that we should be using to refer to people with disabilities. One is people with disabilities. Second is disabled people, right? So these are the terms these are the two terms that are actually in a way uh, legally also, academically also, politically also, consciously also suggested by disability studies, also United Nations Convention on the Rights of People with Disabilities, and also the recent RPWD Act passed by Indian Parliament, which uses rights of persons with disabilities. It doesn't say rights of Divyangjan. It says rights of persons with disabilities. Yeah, so let's come to the first terminology. The first terminology, you can find all sorts of derogatory, all sorts of unfit, all sorts of negative terms that are used to refer to people with disabilities. I don't need to explain these terminologies, starting from, anomalies, monstrous, defect, defunct, incapable, incapacitated, abnormals, imperfect, ugly, all these words are used to refer to disabled people because this is how culturally, socially we have been trained to think about people with disabilities. Because disability is almost seen as an unseeable condition. We don't want to have, like historically, many people did not want to have disabled children. Even now, many people go for abortion, you know, if they find out, the fetus is disabled through prenatal testing, the scans, when the woman is carrying, they go for abortion. But you can only find certain condition, let's say Down syndrome condition, you can find it because the growth of the brain in the fetus can be found out. But blindness, deafness, speech impairment, those conditions cannot be found through scanning, right? And in country like India, many blind children were abandoned, thrown into the dustbin. I know many people like that. Later, they were brought up by their, relatives, and they were given very good education. Now they work as school teachers. But actual parents threw them into the dustbin. Right? So I think that kind of many children often know, after knowing that they have blindness, after knowing that child was born without leg, or after knowing the child was attacked with the polio, many of them were actually killed, by parents. But it's all because of these cultural understanding. It is not really true. None of the conditions are actually true because we don't have really support system, a very good support system in India. In country like Europe, whether you have blind children or not, in many universities, and there are certain inclusive schools there where they have all the facilities, teachers are working all the time. But here we have additional charges, we don't have facilities, we don't have proper classroom, we don't have proper environmental condition, and more than that, we don't have really mental understanding. We really don't have any understanding of people with disabilities. Right? So I think, and because of that, disability is diagnosed at a very, very latest stage. Right? Even in my life, right? My blindness was diagnosed. I mean, I was really made to believe that I was blind at the age of 15. Though I was born with 30 percentage of blindness, I was able to sort of walk on my own. I thought everyone was like that because as a child I didn't understand. And as a result, when I was diagnosed at the age of 15 as a child, I lost 3 years of my education. Meaning, first standard I was failed, third standard I was failed, sixth standard I was failed. But after that, they put me in an inclusive school. They gave me scribe and all these things. I was able to really score well. From then I was scoring only first rank. At the age of 28, I could get PhD from English and Foreign Language University, and all my education was through Tamil medium. And it is not to say that I am very great. It's not to say that I am very brilliant. No, it's only saying the system is not really conducive. It's not the problem. Once again, I'm saying it's a disabling environment. It's not the problem of being blind. Being blind or being born, let's say having been born with the blindness, having been born with physical impairment is not a problem. The actual problem is with the system. Right? At AMU, when I joined AMU in 2016, I was literally sort of fighting with, Canara Bank manager located, the bank branch located at the campus, to give me, internet banking. He was not willing to believe that I could operate internet banking. I said, sir, I'm a person with the blindness. I can use computer. I've been using since 2009, 2016. I was telling 17. I was telling him, 17 January. I still distinctly remember. He didn't give me. Later, I went to my office. I wrote a long email to the ombudsman, Canara Bank ombudsman. His office was located in Lucknow. Then within 2 hours, the manager called me and he apologized and he gave me internet banking credentials. I could do that because I had an education. I have education, and I'm aware of my rights. But I told him, see, this campus has hundreds of blind children, blind students. You should not deny any sort of a thing. The RBI gave a very clear-cut guidelines in 2008. 8 years later, I was fighting for my right to get internet banking. So please, the point I'm trying to say is the system, more often than not, it is a burden on the disabled people to ensure the system being in place. Right? So that's the major problem. Right? And come to the second set of terminologies, the euphemistic terminologies: differently abled, specially abled, gifted, special child, and Divyangjan. These terminologies are an insult to people with disabilities. They don't really represent disabled people. I mean, when I say that, okay, I'm specially able to speaking, what do you mean specially able? Am I a machine robot created with some sort of special ability? I'm a human with a different ability or with diversity of disability. Right? So these terminologies are very, very problematic. As I said at the outset, these are linguistic sanitizers. They only empower the language because able-bodied people feel so awkward in using the term disabled, and as a result, they invented these terminologies. I'm very sorry to say, none of these terminologies were really invented by people with disabilities. All these ingenious terminologies were coined by people with able-bodied conditions. And if you look at these specially abled, differently abled, all these terminologies, they were created after 1990, when the neoliberalism actually came into existence. Because neoliberalism shifted the economy of states across the world from welfare state to capitalistic states. So in welfare state, everyone was taken care of. Everyone was having social security. In the capitalistic states, people were left to or being left to take care of themselves. That is where the American dream says, you work hard and you will be successful. See, okay, I'm ready to work hard. I often tell in my disability studies class also, let's just go out, let's give the CV of mine. I have 3 foreign visits. I have JRF, almost 4 Scopus articles, right? And I worked at 3 years at AMU, PhD from FLU. Let us give the CV and say that, don't say that I'm working at Central University of Tamil Nadu. Just simply say that the person needs a job. They will say, oh, great, he's really brilliant. He's a role model for us. They will say this. After that, they will say, he will not be able to teach our students. Why? Are they students or what? Why I cannot teach? No, our students, it requires some vision. We want them to use blackboard and all sorts of things. You will not be able to. This is the problem. This is where the problem. Then where is the terminology that I am specially abled? In what way it is helping me? Where is the terminology I'm differently abled? Where is the terminology I'm Divyangjan? It doesn't help me. So the actual thing I'm trying to say is these terminologies really, in a way, do not help people with disabilities. They really, I mean, as uh, someone is unmuted. Yes, as Cyril Mary Waite says in the essay on being crippled, there is a huge gap in terms of using language to refer to people with disabilities, in terms of word and reality. The words that we use to refer to the disabled people do not really match up to their reality. In other words, they do not represent reality. There is a huge gap between word and reality. So let us address the realistic words that really represent. You call me blind, I'm okay, because that clearly represents who am I. If someone calls I'm Divyangjan, someone calls that I'm differently able, specially abled, I don't know. It doesn't represent me. It probably represents someone else. I'm not Divyangjan. I'm not differently abled. I'm a human being with the rights of being an Indian. So, someone can please unmute the person. So,
Fauziya ma'am, please mute your mic. Fauziya ma'am.
yeah. So the third category is actually, please look at the terms that are used to refer to people with the able-bodied conditions. So capable, able, normal, beautiful, handsome, like fit, perfect, capacitated, uh, you know, all sorts of terms. As I said, they are unknowingly also not referred to. I mean, unknowingly also people don't use any of these words to refer to people with disabilities. Why? Because these are the terms that are culturally loaded to refer to people with perfect bodily conditions. And here in disability studies, they use the term called TAB, temporarily able-bodied conditions. As one scholar said, today's temporarily able-bodied people are tomorrow's potential disabled. Why? Because after 70, everyone will become disabled. The old age population is a disabled population. But we really forget this thing. We are temporarily, at present, we are only temporarily abled. Many people lose their legs in accident. Many people become blind due to certain things. In fact, if we count, there are 2 types of disabled people. One is people with acquired disabilities. Second is people with congenital disabilities. Congenital means by birth. Acquired means in the middle. So if you look at the kind of population, you find majority of people with disabilities are acquired disabilities. They got blindness, they got some sort of physical impairment in the middle of their life, not in the by birth. But we hardly remember this. We hardly, in a way, understand this. We are only temporarily able-bodied people. We are not permanently abled. If we look at the old age population, we understand that. Right? But still, we in a way tend to think that disabled people are someone who are not like us, someone who are like completely in a way living in a different world altogether, those terminologies, right? And finally, in the terms of fourth category, you find these are the actual words. One is As I said, persons with disabilities. Second is disabled person or disabled people. So these are the two terms. These two terms represent two different ideologies of disability studies. One is person first, second is disability first. Person first means when we say I'm a person with blindness, so I'm giving importance to my human identity, my identity as a human. So in this case, uh, the personhood of myself is prioritized over my disability. If we say second is disability first, so I'm a blind person, so I'm prioritizing my blindness. So the first category, that is person with a disability, is a legal category across the world, legally, including United Nations, including our Indian Parliament, Rights of Persons with Disabilities Act, acknowledged this terminology. So we should say person with blindness, person with deafness, person with hearing impairment, or person with, let's say, autism, right? Person with physical impairment. This is the right terminology. Physically challenged, physically handicapped, these are all not really acknowledged terminologies. Second is disabled people who believe who believe in their political identity. They say that you don't call us person with blindness or person with disability, you call us disabled person, because we continue to be disabled as long as there are barriers in our society, as long as our rights are not recognized. Sir, I mean, as long as we tend to have inequality in the society. So till then, as long as like we have it, or till the point when barriers are removed, equality is restored, accessibility is created, you better continue to call us disabled, because it doesn't refer to we being disabled. It only refers to the inaccessible barriers and the attitudinal behaviors of people, of able-bodied people towards disabled. Same like Dalit people. When Mahatma Gandhi called Dalit people as Harijan, Dalit people opposed it. We are not children of God, because we the children of God, were not allowed to meet the God. So what is the use of empowering the language? There is no point in empowering the language. Let us empower the people. So Dalit people say that we continue to be Dalit as long as this caste oppressions continue in our society. Similarly, disabled people who believe in disability rights, they say that we continue to be disabled as long as disability oppression continues in our society. Because I already told you there is a difference between impairment and disability. Don't get confused between impairment and disability. Impairment is different. We are not denying that someone has blindness, someone has deafness. That's an impairment. And another important thing is hearing impaired people, deaf people, they make a very, very strong argument. The strong argument is, uh, they say that uh, our language is Indian Sign Language. So each country has its own sign language. When I went to Poland, they had Polish Sign Language. Russia, they have Russian Sign Language. America, they have American Sign Language. We, the teachers, do not know anything about sign language, because we don't even ask our children to learn sign language, because we think that it is not relevant to us. And I'm saying it is the most important to us to be a citizen of India. Why? Because we make our children learn Russian, we make our children learn Spanish, German, Japanese, and other Indian language and other Indian languages. But we do not, in a way, make our children, or nor do we make an effort on ourselves to learn Indian Sign Language, and because of which a considerable section of deaf population is very categorically isolated from communicating with us. It's very true. You might have encountered deaf people in our life. You, I mean, whenever we encounter deaf people, it is not that they are disabled, we become disabled because we don't have the communication. The argument that the deaf people make is deaf associations. Let's say that when I went to Poland, I didn't know Polish language. So I became disabled. In the sense, I didn't consider Polish people as like deaf people. It's like that. We encounter deaf people. We don't know their sign language. Just because we don't know their sign language, we say them that they are disabled. It's not true. If we know the sign language, we'll be able to communicate with them. And the Indian government has created a wonderful institution called Indian Sign Language Research and Training Institute. It is part of the Ministry of Social Justice and Empowerment in Delhi. They came out with the Indian Sign Language Dictionary, the basic terminologies. If you just browse the site, you will understand. They also uploaded some basic videos, how to greet the person, how to communicate certain basic things. We travel in a bus, we find a deaf person, so at least we can communicate with the person. We can help him get the ticket. We cannot make all the conductors to learn sign language, but we as a responsible teachers can have some basic signs, SIGNS, basic sign language, in order to communicate, in order to create accessible environment for people with disabilities. And that is to say that accessibility is not a choice. It's not our willingness. It's a fundamental right. Right to access the ATM machine, right to access the educational building, right to access the transport is not a choice for the people with the disabilities. It's a fundamental right of being a citizen. It's like a right to life, Article 21. Because during this former CJI, Chandrachud, he made a very brilliant judgment, talking about accessibility as one of the very important rights. I think that's a very important thing. We need to understand these things. But that's where we need to be careful with the terminologies. And none of the terminologies that are used in our daily life, for example, we use the terminology like often, I'm not a deaf, I can hear you better. I'm not blind, I can see you better. We have also proverbs like blind leading the blind. We have the very bad comparison of blind three four blind people touching the elephant and each one understanding in different way. In order to, we use this as a metaphor to refer to false understanding of some lessons by students, or some the everyday thing. These are most problematic thing, because it is not true. It is not really true. Blind people can have a wonderful sense of understanding, right? So I still remember when I was teaching at Aligarh Muslim University, there were 120 students. There was one student sitting at the fifth bench was putting like on Facebook. I said, someone is using Facebook to put a like. So it's not that I'm very great. It's not that I have a superhuman ability. It is just that I use my other senses. You people use your sight. I use my other senses because I cannot see. I had to run the show. In order to run the show, I need to use it. Right? I need to use my hearing ability. I'm sure all of us have it. If you just close your eyes, just blindfold yourself and try to understand the environment through your ear, you will really realize how much of ability of your ear you have not used it so far. It is not that blind people have extraordinary memory. I often tell my students, like I take 1 hour, 2 hours without anything in my hand. It doesn't mean that, I have 1 TB of Google Drive in my memory. It is just that I have trained myself to be like that. It's all matter of training. You go to the typist, you find they type like anything without even looking at the key. Does it mean they are so brilliant? It is just, no, they got used to it. Right? It's all matter of training. Right? So coming back to this thing, the kind of language that we use, we need to be very, very careful. We need to avoid as much as possible in terms of using disability as a metaphor. Many people, I say that they say that, Bhupathi, I'll see you later. I'm a blind person. How can I see them? Right? We also have other terminology. Okay, we will meet later. Right? But when two sighted people talk, you can tell them that, okay, to tell the person that I'll see you later, right? But that's why I say, in terms, we need to use politically correct terminologies, the terminologies that do not really insult other people, right? So many people unknowingly they say, sir, that person has a blind understanding, sir. I am blind. They said he doesn't have a blind understanding, man. He has an understanding which does not go with you, right? Or he has wrong understanding. You say that we have several other ways of saying it, right? He said that, sir, he is so crippled that he is not able to get up. Meaning, we mean to say that he is lazy. We use the terms like that, right? So similarly, you have so many words in your own language, right? So we need to question those words. What do they refer? They, if you look at those words, they silently, in a way, negatively, wrongly refer people with disabilities. And those terminologies so far have been taken for granted. I don't think hereafter that would work now. Disabled people started started problematizing those terminologies. Those terminologies are acutely, severely problematic because they do not represent disabled people. These are the understanding of, in a way, disabled people by the able-bodied people, right? So these are not really an understanding of disabled people, right? So we need to be really, really mindful of these things. When we get into the classroom, we need to sort of, when we talk to the disabled students, or when we get into the classroom, we need to be careful with the terminology that we use, because we freely use blindness, deafness, cripple, handicapped. These are very, very problematic terms because these are not really referred. I mean, these don't really refer. When we say that, he is a deaf, he doesn't hear me properly, which means it's not that, like it's an insult to the deaf people, right? He is a schizophrenic person. Every time he behaves so weirdly, right? And instead you say he behaves so weird. Why do we use these metaphors like, as? These are very problematic, right? So because these terms are used in terms of able-bodied, ableistic terminology, or what we term as ableism. Ableism is an ideology which strongly believes people with the able-bodied condition can only live in the world. People with the disabled condition should be excluded, and they should be actually sort of put to the margin. They should be marginalized. They should not be included in the mainstream. So our language should be inclusive, our communication to be inclusive. In order to make it inclusive, we need to be conscious, we need to be questioning, we need to be interrogating the terms that we use to refer to people with disabilities. Right? So I guess I'll stop it here. We have some, now it's 11:15. I'm sure there will be some questions. We will allow some room for question and answer session. Thank you very much for the opportunity. And of course, I'm ready for the Q&A.
Thank you, Dr. Bhupathi. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Thank you,
sir.
sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you,
Good
sir.
morning.
Thank
Good morning, sir. Good
Good
morning, sir.
morning. Any question?
I have a
Thank you, sir.
Yeah,
question
please,
for
please,
you.
please. Yeah,
Sir, I
please.
want to know what is an intellectual disability and how can we deal with a student with intellectual disability
Thank
in
you,
the
sir.
classroom?
Yeah, it's a very important question. Uh, there's a book called Understanding Autism, right? So probably you can refer to it, but I'll also tell you, intellectual disability refers to learning disability, which means some students may not understand the things in the way we say, because in our classroom we follow only oral method, oral lecture.
Yes.
For
Yes.
example, autism has three types of autism. Some
Hmm.
autistic can understand only through pictures. So
Yes.
in Europe and all, they have sensory classroom, meaning they explain them. When you say ball, they give them different size of ball, and they
Yes, sir.
make them understand the diversity in the ball. When you
Yes,
see
sir.
pin, there are different types of pin being given. So similarly, the sensory classroom we need to have in the classroom. And also, like for example, some students have ADHD. That's also a very serious thing, attention hyperactive disorder. So that is also a different set of an autism. There are like 6 to 7 intellectual disabilities. So these are learning disabilities. For example, dyslexia is one such condition. More often you find student, he is all fine, he understands you well, but he's not able to read any lesson. If you ask him
Hmm.
to get up and read, the problem is he might be having dyslexia because he will not be able to put, let's say, but. He will not be able
Yes,
to put 3 words together and call it as but. That is
true,
this
sir.
dyslexia. Instead, he
True,
will
sir.
be able to see B separately, U separately, T separately. So in that we need to give him different sort of training. So these days,
Yes, sir.
for example, Jamia Millia Islamia, in their special B.Ed, earlier they had only blind special education for blind, special education for deaf. But these days,
Okay, sir.
recent years, they started including intellectual disability. It's very important
Hmm. Thank you.
because
Thank you.
it's a very, very important. At least as teachers, I'm not saying we should have full training of intellectual disability, but there are schools for intellectual
Thank you so
disability.
much, sir.
Yeah, we need
Yes, sir.
to
Thank
sort of what you call make them enrolled, make the parents understand, because many parents they're not really willing to accept that the child have disability.
you. True, sir. Very true.
That's a very, very important. I mean, there is no stigma about it. There is nothing wrong in admitting the child having
Absolutely.
disability, because if you accept only you will be able to empower the child. If you do not accept, that means you are spoiling the child.
Hmm.
See, I mean, that goes same for any children with the disability. That's very, very important. And
Yes,
we as
sir.
teacher, I'm not saying we need to be sympathetic. We need to, like pay the fees, or we need to be charity oriented. What we need is we need to have a empathetic understanding. We need to help the child to learn as much as the child can. And
Yes,
also,
sir.
while also being mindful of the child's limitation. For example, some intellectually disabled children, they are not really used to back classes. For example, our schooling system, it's a very, very, this itself is designed for able-bodied people with the perfect abilities. For example, 8 o'clock it will start, 1 o'clock it will stop. In between 5 hours, 6 hours, constant lesson one after the other. It's not really sort of what you call really useful for people. I mean, the people with intellectual disability, they cannot sit this many hours. It is so disturbing for the child, because their attention span is very, very limited. 20 minutes maximum they can focus. And if
Thank
you
you,
make,
sir. Thank
yeah,
you.
so that's the thing. I hope I have answered.
Very informative. Very
Thank you.
Very
informative.
good.
Thank you, sir.
Yes,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning,
Very good
sir.
Good
morning, sir.
morning.
Yeah, yeah,
Good
yeah.
morning,
Sir,
sir.
this is
I have
Naveen
a
Uh,
from
question for
Dr.
you.
yeah,
Girls
one
High
minute,
School.
1 minute. I think one person can ask.
Sir, good
Then
morning.
Uh,
Dr.
Good morning,
Saraswati.
sir.
yeah, please,
May I
yeah.
speak? May I
Good
speak?
morning, sir.
Yeah, please. One person can probably ask. Then, of course, I'll answer all your questions. But let's have one person first. Yeah.
Yes, Dr. Saraswati from AMU EBK High School Girls.
Yes, madam.
Sir, thank you for sharing your expertise.
Yeah.
And I have no question yet, but I want to have your kind opinion on few things. Maybe I'm not right, or maybe I don't have enough information regarding that. What I feel is that there is a lack of healthcare access. Like we don't have proper hospitals and trained educators and counselors as well, so that these people may be counseled. What do you think in this regard, sir?
Yeah, it's a very important question, madam, because the thing
Yes,
is, more than the teacher, the first level is parents have to be given counseling, because the first is there are two levels of counseling needed. One is to diagnose the child's disability, because children spend more time in this at home. The parents have to be given counseling about different types of disability. If the child is showing some sort of behavioral difference, the parents have to be educated. The child is having this sort of a problem. Second is, in terms of saying the later level, After diagnosing, let's say, a child is having autism, the parents have to be counseled in order to make them understand, in terms of, let's say, it is not really a problem. Autism, children with autism, many people with autism in USA, Europe, they are they are in a very good position. There is a very interesting book called Thinking Through Picture My Life with Autism. It's a book written by Temple Granton. She is a person with
Okay.
autism. She has designed two-thirds of butchering houses in America. She's earning lots and lots of money utilizing her autism because she can think very distinctly, clearly through pictures, through visual images. So that, I mean, they have real different potential. That potential has to be sort of what you call encast. So we need to really counsel the parents, and it is very true in country like India, we really don't have counselors. And I was really shocked to see in Hinduism almost 2 months back. In India, we have this psychological counselors, one counselor for 20,000 people. Can you imagine one
Oh
counselor for
my God.
20,000 people? It is a record. It's a data.
Mm.
I'm not making it up. And where do you factor disabled people? That's what I really don't. And imagine how many class students you are dealing with in a class. Well, let's say 80 students, 60 students in a classroom, and it is not really conducive to give attention to each child, even to an able-bodied child, right? So that's the reality of India. Because like in Europe, they are able to manage it because they have very less population. In India, we have more population. Almost 15% of people, Indian people, are disabled people, one or the other way. How do and I'm very sorry to say, at least 20 to 30% of disabled people do not even have disability identity card in order to get the provisions of the government. It's a
Yes,
real.
exactly, sir. True.
It's a sorry state of affairs. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you very
Good
much.
morning,
Yeah.
sir.
Good morning,
Mr.
Good
sir.
morning,
Bhupathi.
sir. This is
Hi.
Aisha Khan.
Yeah,
Sir,
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah,
have a
yeah,
question for you, sir.
let's have the Isa
Uh,
Khan's question first, then we'll come to
yes,
other.
sir.
Yeah,
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 thank you so very much, sir, for
yeah.
letting me answer, asking you. Sir,
Mhm.
my question to you is why is that we still don't give enough importance to letting differently able people make their own choices? Instead, we are deciding everything for them. Whatever I've heard from you, sir, this is a very thought provoking question.
Yeah, yeah, I
So I
understand.
just want to make
Right.
sure what your views are.
No, because we still treat disabled people, even though they are grown up, as an infant only. See, for example, many times, like my seniors, colleagues, and they treat me like I mean, as if I don't know anything. I can't eat. I'll tell you, when we get into the, let's say, a party or something, a marriage program, marriage function or anything, they make me sit somewhere else and they bring me food and they say that I like the Punjabi chicken very much, man. I'm sure you will also like it. It doesn't mean the person likes it, I will also like it.
True,
It's like
sir.
yeah, I'm saying that's what it happens. More often than not, most of the decisions are made on behalf of disabled people. That is why the representation, I couldn't talk many of the things because that would be a digression. Now you're talking about it, representation and representation. Representation means someone representing someone else. Representation means someone representing themselves. So in disability studies, we talk about representation. My experience has to be represented. I have an agency. I can speak for myself. Well, let's say when I
Exactly,
go
sir.
when I go to the restaurant with my friend, they often ask the person, "What does he want?" And the person says, "You better ask him. He knows what he wants. I cannot tell him because he is my friend. He knows what I am, right?" So I often say that. I mean, what are you going to get? Are you serving him or serving me? Right? You ask me what I want. That's the. I mean, because I'm educated, I'm able to speak for myself. But I must tell you, me being a faculty in a university, having this sort of exposure, I'm just one in 10,000 disabled population. Other 9,999 disabled population do not even realize that they are human being. Do not even realize
Exactly,
that.
sir. Exactly.
That's the thing, because that's why I said we need to follow citizenship model, human rights model. They are neither subhuman, they are not nor superhuman. They don't. I mean, we don't want to be inspiration to anyone else. I mean, it's not a, because more often we see disabled people as inspiration, Yeah. So that's a thing. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Yes,
Sir,
sir.
good
I
Thank you,
morning,
sir.
sir.
Thank
come
you, sir.
from
Good morning,
Girls
sir.
School. Sir,
Sir,
good
Ambreen
morning, sir.
Rahman from AMU City Girls High School, sir.
Yeah, ma'am. Please go ahead.
Yes,
Yeah.
sir. Firstly, I wanna say thank you so much for this informative session, sir.
Thanks a
And
lot.
I want to sort out my one query.
Mhm.
Is disability caused of some fear, sir? Is disability can be caused of some type of fear?
Asin, can you just expound it a bit, explain a bit?
Someone is having fear about with the water, and someone is having fear with fire, sir. So it is the disability,
It's not a disability, ma'am. It's an anxiety. Disability is
anxiety.
not an anxiety. See, disability,
Okay,
but you can have a fear about disability. Disability often creates
yes,
pity and fear. So when we see a
okay,
person in a wheelchair, we pity for him.
yes,
We are also afraid that, oh, if this condition comes to be, I don't think I'll be able to alive. Many people tell me, Arey man, if I become blind, I will not be able to alive like this. I said,
Ji.
it's not like disabled people are, leading a deadly life, fatal life. It's not that their birth is a fatal accident. For me, I am very happy that I am blind because I could understand many things. Yeah. So it
Yes,
doesn't.
good
Okay.
Yeah.
morning, sir. I am Atal Islam from AMU
Thank
Girls
you.
School. I want
Yes, sir.
to ask
Please.
you that,
Mhm.
sir, what is dyslexia in a disability learning process? Dyslexia.
Yes, sir. Dyslexia is a learning disability. People with
Mhm.
dyslexia cannot read, books properly. In the sense, they cannot read the letters. They can only see letters in terms of isolation. They cannot put letters together and read it. So that's a
Oh,
problem. Similarly, they cannot also write it properly. So it's a severe learning disability. But they have other means. We need to adapt to other means.
they can listen
Of
only.
course. Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
They can listen. Yeah.
okay,
At the same time, they are not blind.
okay.
They have
Thank you.
problem in terms of processing letters.
Okay, thank you so much,
in
sir. Thank you.
in
Mhm.
writing especially yes.
Dyslexia. Yes, yes.
Good morning, sir. This is
Good
Sabha
morning, sir.
Khamar from Senior
Yes.
Secondary School Girls.
Yeah, yeah.
Sir, actually, it's a wonderful session and
Thank
it's
you.
quite relatable to me also.
Mm-hmm.
Because I have a son with profound hearing loss, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And the total majority of the school, the society, school
Mm-hmm.
teachers and counselors, they were
Mm-hmm.
very well with him. But
Mm-hmm.
sometimes parent doesn't want that their children should be involved with this different abled child. And this create a very bad effect and emotional effect to the child also, sir.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I heard that parents say that please keep away my son or my daughter with this son or with this boy or girl. So it's really very bad feeling,
Yeah.
kind of feeling, sir. Instead of giving the basic value for being
Mm-hmm.
kind with the people or behave like the same to the other children, the parents are doing such activities. It's really very problematic,
Yeah,
sir.
because Indian parents more often than not, they think that disability is a communicable disease. It's like like a COVID. If you just talk to the person, it'll spread to them, or it's like very bad to be with these people. It's a very bad omen. That's why I say, because as much as India is culturally rich, as much as it is bad for people with disabilities, because different culture depicts different people with disabilities in a very different way, and this absolute culturally loaded conditions more disable people with disabilities. They do not really empower people, because people have parents have different sorts of values, different sorts of understandings. So I guess, madam, because in the case of people, I mean, your son, I strongly recommend that you better enroll him in school for the deaf, because they would give him better sign language training and other things. Because in this sort of a school, you will get more frustration than sort of any sort of empowerment for your child. Because it's better to enroll him in a special school. They would give him training and everything. And please don't be disheartened. Currently, there is a very brilliant hearing impaired person who is a lawyer in the Supreme Court. He gets so many cases. He argues. He goes with the sign language interpreter. right? It's not really like difficult to come up in life. If someone is deaf, it's not really so. Just that parents have to be strong, the person have to be given absolute motivation, and the person can really come up well, right? So
Thank you so much.
there's a lot of special school for the deaf in Delhi. You better enroll him there. You will really pick up well. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir.
Yeah.
Assalamu alaikum, sir.
Walaikum
I
salam.
am
Yeah.
Nusrat. I'm teaching in Ahmadi School for the Visually Challenged.
Mhm.
Sir, I have one question.
Yes,
That
madam.
as we have to move along with the curriculum, we have
Mhm.
to take the syllabus. So, what do you think it is more important for a visually challenged student? Completing the syllabus on time or ensuring them to understand the concepts? As I'm teaching them science.
Yeah. It is both, madam. Ensuring them understand the syllabus, at the same time
Sir,
making
as you know
them.
that it will take a long time for them
Of
to
course,
make them
of course.
understand the things.
So no. Actually, madam, the thing is, we need to take extra classes, because if you only decide, okay, this I'll teach you only first 3 lessons, other 4 lessons you can give it in choice, that would only affect the child. But we as a teachers should be able to spend extra time as much as possible. We should cover, but we should not go to the next lesson if the student, if any student doesn't really understand the lesson. So we need to stay in the thing, but as much as possible we should ensure. And you know very well, even in the able-bodied mainstream schools, not all the teachers cover the syllabus. Even I don't cover syllabus in my paper. It's really not possible, right? So it's not the problem. It's not only problem for blind students. It's a problem of every student, right? And in fact, blind students really pick up well, you know. So what I'm saying is, you try to cover as much as possible, but try
So
to
we are
adapt.
taking extra classes, but sometimes,
Yeah. I understand.
majority of the time, the
Mhm.
students feel that they say that, ma'am, okay, just tell us the important topics and leave the rest of the part.
Of
So
course,
for
ma'am. But
that
I mean,
reason, I'm asking about
I
this.
understand that is. I'm not saying that disabled students are so sincere. And all I'm saying is, disabled students are just naughty, just like any other children, because they are children. They, right? So,
Okay.
try to cover as much as possible, madam. But please try to use assistive technology devices, like a lot of devices that are designed for science. I'm sure you will be having it. So you can also be in touch with.
Yes, sir, we are using that. We are using that.
That will
Okay,
be
thank you
better.
so much, sir.
Thank you. Yeah.
Good morning,
Good
sir.
morning, sir.
Yeah.
Sir, I am
This is
Hina from AMU ABK School,
Yes, madam.
girls.
Mhm.
Sir, first of all, I would like to express my gratitude for such an inspiring session.
Yeah.
And sir, you make us understand how small changes in language can can create a big difference.
Yeah.
Besides, you also reminded us that communication is not just about speaking, but it is also about connecting with people.
Exactly.
So
Mhm.
session was too inspiring and too thought provoking. Sir, my question is this, like sometime it happens that we are having children with different abilities. Sometime
Mhm.
it happens, and sometimes parents come up, like parents are using different
Can anyone please mute the other person's mic? Like,
so
go ahead, madam. Yeah.
sir, if there is such situation,
Uh-huh.
like parents are themselves, they are using different and outdated terms for their own word. So,
Mhm.
in such case, how can we guide them gently towards more respectful language for their own children?
I'll tell you, madam. I'll tell you first my example, my experience. Before
Yes,
I
sir.
got initiated into disability studies in 2017, if someone said I'm blind, I used to get angry. I said that I'm differently able. I'm visually challenged. Why are you using blind? So even
Yes,
I
sir.
used to get think like this. So it's not that the parents have a disabled child, they have all the awareness. No, they're just like us, right? So
Yes, sir.
we need to make them understand that, see, this is not the thing, this is the thing, this is the right way of saying is. And it's not this child is a gift or something. The child is equally potential like other child, right?
Yes,
What
sir.
is important, like every child is born with the empty slate, and it is so for disabled child as well. And many disabled children, they can do extremely well, better than other people. right?
Of
So
course, sir.
that's why I say the better thing is we need to teach the parents understand that it's not a stigma, it is not something discouraged to have a child. It is just that the child is just like other child, and better
Yes, sir.
like just treat the child in the same way, give the utmost education, don't discriminate between the siblings, right? So these are the things we as a teachers can only tell this. It cannot be told by relatives, it cannot be told by other people, because they will take it as an ego, because you have a normal child, you're telling me this, right? But we as a
Yes,
teacher
sir.
can say this. It's a very sensitive topic, and it has to be sensibly transferred to the other person.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you very
Yeah,
much.
yeah,
Good morning, sir.
yeah.
This is Nusrat Parveen from AMU Girls School.
Yes, madam. Yeah.
Sir, it was really very informative session. Thank
Thank
you
you.
very much.
Thank you, madam. Yeah.
Sir, I want to say that
Mhm.
there is a term behavioral disability.
Yes,
Can you
yes.
please tell what is behavioral disability?
Madam, that is actually to do with what you call mostly intellectual disability only, because in we don't use behavioral disability in disability terminology, right? So we only have three types of disability. One is sensorial disability, second is physical disability,
Okay.
third is cognitive disability.
Yes, sir.
Cognitive
Yes.
disability is intellectual disability, and that also includes behavioral disability. So,
Okay, sir.
in terms
Okay.
of learning, you can say intellectual disability. In terms of behavior, you can say behavioral disability. As simple as that, but
Okay,
it's
sir.
also
Okay.
the same thing. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
Thank you,
thank
sir.
you. Thank you so much,
Thank you, sir.
participants,
Yeah.
Thank
for
you so much, sir.
interacting and asking relevant questions and getting clarifications. And I thank Dr. Bhupathi for accepting my invitation and sparing time and engaging the session. And I hope it has gone well and fruitful, as I can see from the comments and the enthusiasm of the participants.
Thank you very
Thank
much,
you.
sir.
We'll log off and we'll be rejoining for another session at 12.